My name is Maria Moore, and
You can talk to everybody too, it's fine.
I am here for Kayla Moore, and I will be talking and telling her story.
Okay. So can you tell listeners, viewers, and the community what happened to your sister?
Absolutely. What happened to Kayla happens to quite a few people who are mentally ill, and it's become this weird, crazy epidemic where people call for help for their loved one who's in a mental health crisis. The police arrive, and that person is dead. And, it's not a correlation. This is what's really happening. And it's causation. They come and they kill. So that night, Kayla was with her roommate, with her in-home caregiver, and another person that night. And the roommate called, Kayla was making dinner, and the roommate called for what's called a 5150 hold. And basically, when they arrived, within 30 minutes, Kayla was dead. So just to give you a little idea of what happened, a 5150 is involuntary hold, and we're all aware of that. Unfortunately, the police are the only people who can initiate that. Kayla wasn't a danger to herself. She wasn't a danger to others, but the roommate called because she was a little bit off her meds. She was schizophrenic, so she was talking to her people, and, she was cooking dinner, but, the roommate, having lived with her for a while, kind of knew her cycle. So, in his mind, he thought he was being probably proactive, okay, or I don't know, maybe he wanted her out of the house. I don't know, but he called. And the first thing that they did when they came, they didn't even talk to Kayla. They ran a warrant check on the roommate, and they ran a warrant check on Kayla. So they had it in their minds they were going to take her out any way they could. And they were going to, this is someone who's supposedly in crisis, but you want to take him to jail. And she hadn't committed a crime. So they found a warrant for the roommate in San Francisco, and they arrested him. This is the person who called for help, and they put him in the patrol car. And then they ran a warrant on Kayla, and a name came up. It was an invalid warrant in San Francisco for her dead name, Xavier Moore, and it was for Xavier Moore, about 20 years older than she was, and it wasn't her. It was not for her. And what they decided to do was to proceed with arresting her. So they took the roommate out of the police car, had him unlock her door, put him back in the police car. They go upstairs and they call Kayla to come out. And she does. Like I said, she's in her room. She's got her little moo on. She's cooking dinner. And she answers the door to see two police officers there. And, once again, when Kayla's talking to her people that quite no one else can see but her, and the officer is unable to relate, unable to talk to her, and doesn't even know how to interact with someone like Kayla. So instead of talking to her and trying to get to understand that she's fine, they tell her, well, you have a warrant, we're going to arrest you. Kayla was concerned. She's like, no, I don't have a warrant. In her mind, what she told the officer was, I'm going to go call the FBI and I'm going to take care of this. So Kayla went to turn to make a phone call, and that's when they grabbed her. The other officer grabbed her, and Kayla was surprised and terrified, and she pulled her arms back. And similar like this, there was a futon on the floor. They fell back on it, and that's when they called backup. The struggle ensued. Kayla was just terrified. So within seconds, you have 4 to 5 to 6 officers coming in and laying on top of her. And Kayla's a big girl, okay? Good girl, liked to cook, she liked to eat, and she was about 355 pounds when she died. But they had all these officers on top of her while she's on her stomach, and they're trying to get her into what's called a wrap device. And anyone who knows anything knows you don't use a wrap device on someone who is big, obese. It's been known to cause death, but they are trying to get her into this device and keep her restrained. And after a few minutes, she quieted down, and the officers made sure they were okay. They checked each other out. You good? They realized that she was quiet, a little too quiet. So they finally decided to check on her and realized that she had no pulse. So at that point, they attempted what I call bullshit CPR, because anyone who knows anything about CPR knows that as a first responder, you give the chest, you also give the mouth to get air to the oxygen to the brain, and none of them did the air breath, and we know why. You know, they didn't want to put their mouth on hers. They didn't do everything they could to save her. Not only did they kill her, but they didn't want to save her either. So, you know, that was around the time, you know, basically the ambulance came. One of the things that really kind of hurt was that Kayla, like I said, she was in her moo-moo and it came undone during the struggle. And she's lying there exposed. And when the officers asked her, the other officer, well, what is it? Is it a he or a she? And, you know, and to see something like that, that just sums that up perfectly. What she was in their minds. She wasn't it. She wasn't human. She wasn't a person. She wasn't a sister. She wasn't a daughter. She wasn't it. And they, you know, and when they took her out to the ambulance in the gurney, they still didn't cover her up. They gave her no decency in her death, no respect in her death. You know, for someone who's transgender, that's very private.
Yeah.
And she didn't get that. So, you know,